Hello and welcome to my new future of the channel that basically I want to kind of become a more prominent series, and that is Multi-Movie Monday, where I'm going to review either 2 to 3 to 4 movies of a franchise that certainly share a similar theme. For example, if I were to review all the Batman movies, it's because they're all based off of a similar superhero. If I were to review, like what would you say, for example, Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, it's because they share a similar thing. So any movies that basically share a similar theme with them, like same actor, same director, same genre, or maybe even the same story, just in general, what have you, it will be featured on this channel. This series. So today it's Howling Heck Day, and happy October, everybody! Because we are looking into the most fantastic of Howling Heck movies of a similar name. And if you can tell by Howling Heck, yes, I of course mean werewolves. So we're going to take a look at our first feature of the day, an American Werewolf in London, which happens to be my personal favorite of the bunch. So let's take a look at American Werewolf in London. From director John Landis, this is an American Werewolf in London, his telling of the famous story of, the Werewolf of London, starring David Naughton and Griff Dunne, two boys that go into the Irish land. Upon their trip, these two boys happen to stumble across something of wonder. They stumble across a legendary pub known as the Slaughtered Lamb and hear the story about a werewolf. Thinking it's myth, they check it out for themselves. Which of course leads them to the immortal encounter with the werewolf itself on their first night, knowing that they're probably both screwed and are probably immortally and indefinitely dead meat. So while the werewolf does indeed kill Jack, it only attacks David, leaving him as the only survivor, and sad to say, the next to become a werewolf. David is attended to London Memorial Hospital, or a hospital in London. Whether that's a real name or not, I have no idea, where he's met by his love interest of the movie, played by Jenny Agatha. At the hospital, David does have some hallucinations, and these hallucinations go from the very weird into the extremely very weird, as he sees himself getting lost more and more and more, and becoming, a werewolf, a creature of the night. This film is very slow paced, even though it's only an hour and 38 minutes long. This movie still is slow paced, and it's not long before David and the nurse end up falling in love with one another. You could have probably seen that coming straight out of a storybook or any other script, mind you. But it's also not long before David starts to have some hallucination of himself, including seeing the dead crypt of his friend still bearing with him. Something that is familiar in werewolf terms, where the werewolf is haunted by the people that they kill. This is very true in the case of Jack with David, although David didn't kill Jack. Jack tells David he has to kill himself in order to stop the curse and prevent himself from killing anybody. But David does not see this as right. He sees this as a wrong, that he's not going to kill anybody. But as Jack tells him, he eventually will kill. On a day where his girly friend, the nurse, goes up to work, David ends up not having the best night of his life, especially that it turns worse later that night, where he begins to change. Then eventually, David is transformed into the immortal werewolf designed by Rick Baker, and God bless him, as David goes out on the attack and kills people. But that morning, dazed and confused, David wakes up inside the wolf den, or wolf area, at his local zoo, not knowing what happened and forgetting all about that night before. But then he starts to go completely batshit insane. He freaks out and he starts basically publicly offending a police officer. Because why the hell not? And if you think I'm joking, no, he publicly starts to offend him in front of everybody.
That's enough! No! Please! Shakespeare's French! Fuck! Shit! Cut! Shit! Come on, that's enough.
David, please!
Who is this person? If you don't stop this disturbance, I shall arrest you. That's what I want you to...
David is slowly losing his mind, and he's starting to crack under pressure. This makes it even more harder and more difficult when he tries to keep everything contained and it just breaks loose, especially in front of a police officer, an officer of the law. So David runs away and plans to kill himself. After calling his family, he's confronted by the people that he killed, and not only Jack, who's being voiced by Griffith Dunn, because, good God, the model on the puppet, or animatronic, looks so damn good. And also they're inside a porn theater. Because John Landis, everybody. The corpses all tell David, including Jack, that he needs to kill himself, and trying to find out the quickest way to kill it in the most seamless way possible. But it's not long before David is changed again. He becomes hell in a handbasket quickly as he admits out in the front of the London Midway and starts going on a haywire killing spree, killing everyone and everything. But he goes out to hell at a cost because he's going to hell. Police eventually get David cornered down the street and a chance to take shots off at him. As the nurse tries to go to him to confront him, the officers are there with their guns primed, ready, and waiting to kill.
I love you, David.
American Werewolf in London is a classic werewolf movie done in all the right way with every right move put on the table. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it, especially if you're a werewolf fan. Even if you're not and you just want a new horror movie to check out this October, I highly again recommend An American Werewolf in London. Well, An American Werewolf in London is quite frankly one of my personal favorite of the werewolf genre movies, and I've seen a bunch of them, and this is a perfect example of how to do werewolf right, and John Landis, who is normally a comedy director, did a great job with this one. But even still, for cult classic favorites, we're not quite done yet. And we're going to take a look at another cult classic favorite of the horror genre with werewolves, The Howling. The movie stars the immortal Dee Wallace as newspaper reporter Karen White, and yes, that's Dee Wallace from E.T., who's hunting down a serial killer who she thinks had been harassing her for basically most of her life. She has a very close encounter with him that ends up scarring her for quite some time, and yes, it's a horrific accident that she herself had been forever traumatized by. Not even with all the help in the world will Dee Wallace be able to forget this. And also while at home, Dee has some pretty traumatic flashbacks, and basically PTSD inspired, that remind her of the trauma where she almost got killed by the serial killer. This makes her husband kind of a little bit afraid for her and not knowing what to do. And yes, I don't know why, her husband looks a little bit like Chuck Norris. Karen eventually goes to see a psychiatrist and kind of figure out what to do. He told her that she should go join a place where she can get away from the escape and probably get the help that she deserves, known only as the Colony. At first, the Colony seems like a nice place to be, sort of a subtle little place where people with psychiatric problems or mental health issues can go and get the help that they so rightly deserve. That's at least upon the outer level, as Karen gets the help that she thinks that she needs and deserves. Things eventually take a turn for the worse, especially when her husband cheats on her with a woman that is a werewolf, and suddenly transforms her husband into, well, what do you expect? While the transformation at first is very subtle, it eventually does get better. It's nothing like an American Werewolf in London, mind you, but it gets the point across pretty quickly. Karen eventually finds out that the colony is not for people with mental problems or psychiatric issues. It's instead a holding hell for werewolves, so people that are werewolves can come to eat and dine on the people that are foolish enough to join them. Karen, as you'd expect, tries to escape from this place, but the colony won't let her, finding out that she's trying to leave, and take the keys to a car and bring her held hostage in front of the whole entire rest of, quote-unquote, the colony. What I love about this is that they are just held up in this one place, and they all have the same motive in mind: kill, eat, and probably reproduce. So everybody's ready for a complete hunt, and the wolf hunt begins. Karen White, or Dee Wallace, does make her escape, but she makes her escape at a cost. She doesn't lose her life, but rather she becomes something that she probably never wanted to be in the first place, leading up to the most infamous moment from this whole movie.
Make you believe.
The Howling is just a fantastic movie about, well, nothing less, but what if you ran into a colony full of werewolves? This is probably your answer. It's a great movie with a bunch of great special effects, great actors, and just a stupendous story all the way around. Although the werewolf effect, except for the ending, could be just slightly better. So if you need some extra werewolf loving in your life, I highly recommend checking out The Howling, because you won't be disappointed, and you might get some fun and enjoyment out of it. Well, that's it for Howling Heck Day for Multi-Movie Monday, and let me know how you're enjoying this. And again, the two movies I reviewed are An American Werewolf in London and The Howling. So I hope that you guys all have enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Click the notification bell if you want to be notified whenever I do an upload. Follow me at Twitter with the link in the description down below. And thank you guys so much for watching. Next Monday, we're taking a look at another cult classic and a remake that pretty much nobody wanted, because next time we're going with Imperfect Imitator Day. So I'll see you next time on the next Multi-Movie Monday, and just remember, it's always time for movies out there somewhere.